right, so gonna be doing a comic review. Sent to another comic sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again, brother. And today we're gonna be talking about. Funny enough, I'm talking to him right now. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about Matt Wagner's Dracula. This is book one, The Impaler. I was very curious to read this, and I had no idea Chris was sending this to me, so thank you again, bro. I was actually, like, in a previous recording before I stopped, I was talking about, like, that book two, The Brides, is gonna be coming out in November, and I didn't know if Chris was sending that. And, like, on some weird way, like, I get a text from him saying, hey, I just ordered you book two of Dracula. So, yeah. So I almost was tempted. Well, I hope you. It was like funny. I was doing a review right when you right when you texted me, bro, and I almost was tempted, but I'm not an asshole, at least most of the time. To say, well, I got bad news for you. I didn't like this book, but no, that is not the case. I actually do enjoy this book. Do I love it? No, I wouldn't go that far, but I think there is a lot here, and it's just kind of groundwork for what Matt Wagner and what Wagner and in the artwork and the artist Kelly Jones are doing. Anyway, so for those who are probably guessing, this is another Dracula origin story. I almost said orange story. This is another Dracula origin story, and it's been you've seen it multiple times, right? Like we've all kind of seen this kind of story multiple times. It happens when you have an in public domain character. You really do tell this kind of story, and this is just Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones's take on the character. Like this is their interpretation of how Vlad Tepes became Count Dracula. And I think it's a trilogy of books. Book two will be about the brides. This is about like how he took on that initial title. There was a Dracula origin comic that I was going to get, but I wasn't able to, I was like, maybe another time. It was by Kurt Busiek, and I skimmed through it, and I saw a lot of, like, that book in here. In the sense that, like, it's another origin story is what I'm saying. But yeah, this is also not tied. I think this goes without saying that this is not tied to the Image Universal Monster Comics. This is under Dark Horse, and the book has got some serious praise, like Leslie S. Keelinger, who wrote Arno Dracula. You have Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, who wrote Nosferatu and Lock and Key. And this quote I love right here. Matt Wagner, Kelly Jones, and Dracula are a match made in hell, and we are lucky to be on this earth at the same time to see them come together. A quote by Neil Gaiman. probably in later reprints probably take that quote off. Just saying. Anyway, anyway, so I'm aware the comic came out before the allegations that were becoming more and more frequent. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, I think you all know. Anyway, so this comic, like I said, is an origin story, and basically it has that during the wars, Vlad Tepes is at war with the Ottoman Empire. He's kind of losing right now, but he's believed that he's going to be able to get a new edge in battling and destroying his enemies. How, you may ask? He's going to go make a deal with Satan and become like become a wizard. Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting that. Maybe you were. So yeah, Dracula essentially goes on this quest to find a new way to destroy his enemies, and what he does, make a deal with Lucifer for his soul, and Lucifer opens up this, like, doorway to showcase, like, all these other people who are also trying to be wizards, dark wizards, and learn all this knowledge and whatnot. And Dracula is among them, and it goes from there to learning, like, how he became it's all of this story to, like, set up to, like, how he became the vampire. So I really love the storytelling here. Matt Wagner, most of you guys will know, he had done Batman, Judge Dredd, Grendel, a lot of other comics. And we have Kelly Jones's artwork, which the name may not sound familiar, but you've definitely seen his work in Batman, and you've definitely seen a lot of, like, darker, scarier books, like horror books. And yeah, this is kind of what all I can show you, because everything else is bloody and full bush, if you know what I mean. Just full, like, it is a tangled mess down there. And just saying, I have no problem with hair in my soup. That's a me thing. Oof. Yep. Oh god, I'm terrible. Anyway, so, as I was saying, the comic is more about, like, it doesn't start as a vampire book in the traditional sense, in that this is a Dracula who's kind of like, this is a Vlad who has essentially been he's kind of given up on God and all of that, and he's just like, look, I just want to beat the Ottomans at this point, and if I gotta give up my soul, I wasn't fucking using it. I also love that there's this great moment where he's talking to, like, all these other nationalities around the world, and he's, like, talking to him, and he's like, what do you think? Like, yeah, it's clearly the devil, but there's all these other, sorcerers around him, and one goes, oh, it's Loki, another one goes, oh, it's this deity from Africa and all that, and it's just, like... And I really like that, like, Wagner has this moment of, like, talking about, like, all these forms of evil and all of that. The problem is he doesn't go far enough with it. I think, like, he opens these doors of, like, talking about, like, all these multiple religions and how they coincide and what they're dealing with, and kind of... It's not really touched too deep on. Now, maybe that'll happen in later books. Maybe that'll happen in, like, the later comics on a whole. But as it stands right now, it just kind of feels like, it really feels more like it was just a door, like a little thing, and then we move on to something else. That's what it really, like, kind of comes down to. Yeah, the thing of Dracula becoming a vampire happens at the very tail end. It's more of like Dracula being like, it's wizard time! Fireball, bitches! And that's kind of what it is. And eventually, if Dracula gets to become a vampire in the last 5 pages, and Satan just kind of, like, goes over the rules of being a vampire, and he's just like, oh, you can do this, this, and this, and this, and that, but you can't do that. So, it really feels like it was a long-winded way to get to Dracula being a vampire. Now, again, that's probably going to change in the later books, because the second book will focus on the brides. And what I will say is that you never really get a lot of stuff involving the brides. You don't get a lot of stuff of, like, how did Dracula find the 3 brides, and why did he pick them specifically. So I'm really interested in book 2, especially because of that. Like, because of that nature of, hey, Dracula always has these 3 women with him, but we don't know who they are, we don't know their names, we don't get really much of a backstory. So, I'm very, like, this was more groundwork than anything, and nothing I really have, even, like, Dracula making a deal with Satan, boning women, there's a lot of sex in this book, but then again, that's part of the course with, the Dracula mythos, because, again, Dracula has always, the novel and the character have always been tied to sexuality and things like that. So, that doesn't shock me. But it's nothing I really haven't seen before in this book. Now, that's not to say that's not going to change in book 2, because, again, we're going to talk about, like, how Vlad met the brides, and how he turned them. Why did he turn them? Why did he pick these 3 specifically? So, that'll be cool. And also finding, like, we get to book 3 and seeing onward. But again, like, it just kind of felt like a long-winded way to say, oh, this, Dracula's a vampire at the end. Like, the last 5 pages of the book, 5-10 pages of the book. Vlad becomes a vampire. Hope you all enjoyed all these talks of, like, all these mentions of theology and whatnot, and we're not going to really do anything with it. So, yeah. Still solid. I still liked it. I think the artwork's great. And I'm always a sucker for, pun not intended, for anything Dracula. So, yeah. So, Chris, thank you once again for the comic. You guys tell me in the comments below if you've read this book. Comment below, let me know what you thought of it. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.